Now, before we kind of jump into ESL, because I think that's a whole nother story, I want to spend some time talking about esports journalism in its current state. You spent probably I guess the better half of your esports career building esports journalism, being in the very thick of it, at least European esports journalism. But you make that face, but you did. I mean, you were the editor in chief of probably one of the biggest teams back then, because EG was nowhere near the size that it is now. SK Gaming was pretty large. What are your general opinions right now on the current state of esports journalism? Just very general.
I have to say that, I mean, there used to be times when there were five different people writing with an actual clue about esports and writing, and with a voice and writing about that. These days, esports journalism doesn't really exist the way it used to exist because people think it's about writing news, posting news, and updating scores, which it isn't. It's actually about, that's the bread and butter, yes, but the jam and the cherry and the cake is actually delivering original content, which is interviews, proper articles, proper previews for tournaments, sucking the story out of a tournament, picking an angle and illustrating a tournament in a certain light to make it more interesting to follow, things like that, and writing actually opinion pieces and columns and putting the organizers today in check. So if there's a company out there that is doing something that's theoretically damaging to esports because, I don't know, they're burning money and they're affecting other companies in a bad way or whatever it is, there should be somewhere out there in the community just, lambasting that company for doing the wrong thing or things like that. And I don't see people that have enough voice, character, charisma, or courage to do that these days, and it's very regrettable because I believe that's a very important role of the press to actually to be this solution in the community, to protect the community maybe from some of the bad influences, or at least raise important questions that the community should talk about.
Who do you
And I don't see many people doing that these days.
who do you feel is doing the best job?
To be honest, I would do people injustice if I mentioned a particular person, simply because I don't follow everything and I don't have the time to follow everything. I have to say I really enjoy Slasher's work at Live on 3 with DJ Wheat. It's an interesting show. I watched, honestly, a couple of State of the Games, literally a
Oh,
couple.
we weren't journalism at all. We were drama.
Well, it's a talk show. It falls under journalism,
That's
I
true.
guess,
Yeah,
right? To be
loosely.
honest, I really enjoy Real Talk. And this is not brown nosing or whatever. I really find the level of your show very high, and I really enjoy it. But in terms of this truth seeking, which is something which is important to me, there are not many people that I'm aware of that do that. For example, Team Liquid does a phenomenal job with score updates and coverage, so the rudimentary stuff, but they choose to be very neutral to everyone. So if there's a company that doesn't do things the right way, they don't really point it out as harshly as they theoretically would be completely entitled to. And another thing regrettable in this world is that, I'm not going to name names. I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing anyone in particular, any company or any person. But and by the way, most of your guesses, if your people in the community, Reddit and stuff, most of your guesses will not be 100% correct. But we have all these shows that create opinion and websites that create opinion, and the people that are involved with these shows, they have clear agendas if not to, if even if they don't criticize one party or another, they certainly aren't able to criticize or shed a you know how do I say this, pot questions, or like really valid, really interesting questions around entities that they themselves are affiliated with,
Mm.
which is a major conflict of interest, and I don't
Yeah.
like that. But at the same time, there's nobody else that does these types of shows. And I honestly believe that if there's a good show done by completely neutral people that are allowed to say anything they want about anyone they want, they would they would beat shows and websites and other entities that keep quiet about certain stuff and talk about other stuff. If you know what I mean, that's regrettable.
It kind of feels, and you can tell me if you agree with this or not, but it feels like we're in this weird transition period where everyone that was in esports in the past 4 or 5 years is either with a company or with a league, and the people that haven't are kind of either in the middle where they're somewhat with the company. They do contracting work, they do work for a lot of these companies, so they can't criticize them. But it feels like in this day and age of esports that you actually can't be a journalist, because if you are, you won't have a job. You can't actually make a living. Otherwise, you just burn so many bridges because people are so, companies, not people, are so um, they get very upset if you piss them off, and they're very fickle, and they won't go back on that. Do you feel the same kind of way? I mean, I look at Patrick Chobopion, who in my opinion is probably one of the top ones, as well as Slasher, and he worked for MLG. He's kind of broken that tie now, but at the same time he's with GameSpot has ties with everyone now. So it's a very weird state, I think, for journalism, and I don't think we'll have this true version. You mentioned truth finding, which is kind of at least in my knowledge of it, is the basis of journalism, and you can't have that right now in the scene. Do you agree with that?
Uh, well, there are a couple of factors. Let's see how this began. All the communities that in the beginning, when let's say 10 years ago, esports was kind of launched with games like Quake, Counter-Strike, let's say Warcraft 3 and things like that. StarCraft, Brood War in the beginning as well. And all these people that work in the industry today, most of them actually started in that era.
Right.
But in the beginning, not many people were actually able to make a living out of esports. So if you were competent and a big esports fan, you were probably way better off actually finding a job outside of the industry, because being a journalist in esports would pay you, let's say, €350 a month. I'm making this up, by the way. But if you were a journalist in a Norwegian newspaper, you would make, with the same skill set, €3,000 a month. So anybody with a skill set and with an actual degree in something, they would leave the industry and get jobs elsewhere, which left the very few people that work in the industry. Those are the few competent people that manage to be lucky enough to land a job that could where they could earn a living. And because of the age of all these communities, there's no new people coming up and filling these roles after, let's say, somebody steps up and works for a company and is no longer able to, write independent journalism stuff. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of the journalism stuff is it's very difficult for anyone to begin, because obviously if you don't have experience as a journalist, in my opinion, then you start off with writing news and stuff. But what good is news these days with all these crowdsourcing websites where you get all of your news from Reddit and Twitter, and then maybe Team Liquid, and you're informed? There's no way that anybody could justify doing this and spending half of the day doing this esports thing by writing news if it goes to Reddit and takes all the traffic away from your website anyway. There's no way to justify it. But I do believe that if there's anybody with a voice, with an interesting topic, that person could interesting topic and an interesting opinion about the topic, that person could benefit a great deal, because there's nobody else like that, and you would be absolutely unique if you did that.
What do you watch a lot of Live on 3, and Scott, I know you're going to be pissed at me for bringing this up, but the past couple of episodes, this idea of sources, specifically with Slasher, and kind of pertaining to the whole stuff, the Stefano acquisition by EG. How do you what are your thoughts weighing in on the situation that occurred and the whole idea of sources right now in the industry? Because
actually, I missed a couple of the Live on threes which you're referring to, but I can probably infer what the deal is. In general, I think it comes down to credibility of the author. If it's somebody, Johnny357 Reddit account that writes something, then you should really take it with a grain of salt. But if it's somebody that, for example, you're connected to many players, you have a track record, you're a reliable guy, you have a reputation. If you write something like, "Hey, Stefano's going to EG," I'm going to believe you. I don't care what your sources are. I trust you. So it's a matter of trust for the author, I think. And granted, we don't have too many people in the industry that are willing to go out and spread rumors and say, "I have really good sources. I'm not going to burn them, but you have to believe me. Stefano's going to EG," stuff like that. So, it's part of journalism, right?
Right.
Simple as that. I mean, the problem is that there are not many people that are able to deliver it at a very high standard where they would be credible and they would have a reputation where you would naturally believe them. So I have to say they could potentially damage one company or another in not a very significant way, but still they could.
Now, we are going to move on to IEM, but I do want to kind of throw out to the community, if you're watching this on YouTube and the VOD, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'd be very interested to see, and also on Reddit, what you guys think about the whole journalism in esports, because I think it's a reoccurring theme that is always brought up, but the only people really weighing in on it are figureheads. So I want to know what the community thinks. But moving right along, IEM, how